Hello, and welcome to section 5. This is our final section. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to add a simple filters to our application, which will allow us to choose which vehicle we actually want to track. So let's jump straight into it. I have a code sandbox prepared, and I have already configured it. As last time, you would need to go and put your Google API key here, and you need to unblock your browser if it's blocking WebSockets connection. So as you can see, the application UI, I've changed it a bit. I moved the manage into the same screen. And let's pretend that manager just asks us to do that. So that brings some interesting challenges in terms of caching, because ability to add the vehicles on the same screen as to see the vehicles and actually choose which one you want to track. So as you can see, I've been testing it a bit and we have quite a few here. So in this video, what we're going to focus on is actually making these filters work. So for now, you notice if I click on all of this, it doesn't actually have any effect. It's just checkboxes displayed on the screen, just a simple React, and this is moved here. So let's make sure that we actually only see the vehicles that we want to track. So for that, let's open up our route viewer, and our route viewer now has this part which is allows you to select vehicles to track. So as you can see, I've already coded most of it here. It's just a checkbox with a toggle. And when you check something here, what it does, it's going to find that specific vehicle ID in the array of tracked vehicles. And it's going to flip its tracking status from true to false, or to makes it exactly the same with whatever we did. So right now, this is information not getting passed, but what we can do is we can actually check what's happening with this tracked thing. And as you can see, there's an initialization code here. For the first time when we load this, we don't have an array of tracked vehicles. So what we do is we check that our tracked vehicles arrays has nothing in it yet. And it wouldn't match in this situation the array of the vehicles we received from the GraphQL backend. So when we see this, we initialize the tracking and we return the loading screen so they don't see this white blink there. So let's just see what it looks like. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to first filter them to see only the tracked ones, because we don't see all of them. We want to see all of them. And the second thing I'm going to do is I'm going to select only IDs, because that's really the only thing we care. We don't really interested that. There's only two fields, as you can see, it's tracked or not, and we already filtered on the tracked ones. Let's see if we do this, and we go here, open our console. As you can see, as I'm gonna check those boxes, we think this 1998, and if I do this again, then we're getting 3 of them, 2, 1, 0. So it looks like we're getting an array of IDs of vehicles, which is exactly what we need to pass. Speaking of that, vehicles, they're actually coming from the query, which we do here. So now, before we actually display anything, we make this big query to get all the vehicles, and that's where we're getting all IDs. And this query, as you can find, it's very simple. It's just getting ID and the name of the vehicle, so we can display it here. So let's get this information that we got here. So let's call it IDs to track. And what we can do is we can pass this information to our map, because right now our map just displays everything. So we need to tell it to display this, and we're just going to pass the same exact name. And at this moment, it's not going to do anything because our map doesn't know anything about this specific thing. So the first thing we need to do is we actually need to figure out how do we do the subscription. And as before, one of the easiest way to do this is to go to the console in Hasura. And when the console loads, you can actually play a bit with subscriptions here. So you can see I've already done this, but essentially what I did, I just went here and I said, I pressed limit, and then I pressed here, and I pressed in, and I just type the value that I wanted, and that's what's generated. This generates this for you. And if you want to use variables, it's better to try it here, because then it's conveniently will tell you if something is wrong. So as you can see, this query works. So it means we can just take this query and put it inside application instead of the query that we have already. Open up queries, we have subscription here. So we can just replace this subscription with a new subscription, which is now going to allow us to pass the vehicles array there. So let's make sure that we're passing the same vehicles in our variable here. So vehicles, and we called our props, I believe it was something like tracked IDs here. Now let's. So hopefully, if we've done everything correctly, we should get no vehicles right now, which is correct. And as we start flipping this, the vehicles will starting to appear on the screen. Yay, okay. So as you can see, the filters with the GraphQL is very simple to implement. It's the same way as before. We just modify our query and the parameters will deal with the rest. And this is way more effective now, because before what we did is we had subscriptions which just grabbed everything. So there is one problem with this, and you will notice if I type a name here, so let's say it's going from New York to San Francisco, and it updates every 2 seconds. So as soon as I press add, you notice that there is no checkbox appearing for it. So the only way for me to see it now is actually to refresh the page, but then I will lose ability, because my generation of the locations also comes from the same frontend. So as soon as I refresh, the vehicle stops moving. So that's where we need to start dealing with the cache directly to be able to tell Apollo that we have changed something here and it needs to be reflected in this checkbox. So we're gonna look in the